Welcome everyone to today's webinar on how to get started on your transition towards regenerative agriculture. My name is Kylie Wagner and I'm the Farmland Program Director for Kiss the Ground. A few housekeeping items. Just make sure your speaker view is on. You can click the button located at the top right of the screen. And if you have any questions for Ray and Gabe throughout their presentation, just please submit those in the Q&A section. We'll try and keep that separate from the chat where you can access links that Tracy will post. And yeah, let's get started. We have Gabe Brown and Ray Archuleta from Soil Health Academy joining us this morning to discuss how you can begin your path towards regenerative agriculture. And they'll give a brief introduction to Soil Health Academy's new virtual course, Regen Ag 101. Ray Archuleta is a soil scientist and has over 30 years experience as a soil conservationist, water quality specialist, and conservation agronomist with the NRCS. And after leaving NRCS in 2017, Ray founded Understanding Ag LLC and Soil Health Academy to teach biomimicry strategies and agroecology principles for improving soil function on a national scale. Ray also owns and operates a 150-acre farm near Seymour, Missouri with his wife and family. And Gabe Brown is one of the pioneers of the current soil health movement. Gabe, along with his wife Shelley and son Paul, own and operate Brown's Ranch, a diversified 5,000-acre farm and ranch near Bismarck, North Dakota. And their ranch focuses on farming and ranching in nature's image. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Ray and Gabe to talk about the road to transition, why it's important and what's possible, and next steps.
Thank you, Kylie. Thank you, Finian. It's good to see you guys. We're pretty excited about this course. And I guess one of the most exciting things about the course is it's about education, really. It's about having the right filters, the right paradigms. I can tell you, I spent a majority of my career after years and years of college having the wrong goal, having the wrong framework. And I tell you, that really impacts your whole life. And for me, it wasn't until about 15 or 16 years ago until I read the right books, being exposed to Gabe, certain mentors, that it actually changed my life, but it also changed the way I look at the natural system. So this is one of the reasons why we started Understanding Ag and Soil Health Academy. And so this online course is a very powerful tool for us because it's all about looking at the natural system from the right framework, the right understanding. And I tell you, if you're going to farm or you're going to ranch, if you don't have the right concepts and the right principles, if you don't have the right framework on how to look at the natural system, I can tell you from my own personal journey, it can be absolutely depressing when you don't even know the goal. And what I love about what our course does, it outlines the goal. So you don't have to make all these mistakes and you can actually make a living on farming. And Gabe will tell you, he went through this journey. And so this course is the beginning of that journey. And Gabe will tell you how precious is to have the right thought process, the right understanding. So Gabe, tell them what can they get out of this course?
Thank you, Ray, and thank you to the good people at Kiss the Ground. It's a pleasure for us at Soil Health Academy to be working on this project with Kiss the Ground and to really try and lead people down the regenerative path. So Ray mentioned, and is absolutely right, that education is the first step in this journey. And regenerative agriculture is not about a destination, it's a journey. One of the most exciting things for Ray and myself and our partners at Soil Health Academy and Understanding Ag is that we get to learn something new every day. We often tell people, we're not very intelligent, but we know a lot of intelligent people. And it's forming the network with those people and going down this journey together that makes this so exciting. So as a farmer and rancher, we often get asked the question, well, why should us as farmers and ranchers go down the regenerative path? And there are many reasons on a personal level, on a cultural level with society, but plain and simple for farmers and ranchers, it's about profitability. Being regenerative leads to much greater profitability. And we tell people it doesn't do any good for us to go out and tout the virtues of regenerative ag if we're not able to keep people on the land. And right now, there's a real crisis in our rural communities. No matter where in the world we travel, we see the same thing. Farming and ranching has become very industrialized, commoditized. It has very slim profit margins. But start working with nature instead of against her, that opens up a whole new level of profitability. And as farmers and ranchers become more profitable, they're able to adopt more and more of these principles. These principles then help us address things such as climate change, clean air, clean water, food deserts. We're able to get nutrient dense food into communities that didn't have them before. And we're able to heal, our rural communities. And so regenerative agriculture is something that all society, no matter your goals, your concerns, can come together and agree on. So it's very exciting to team with Kiss the Ground and be able to offer this Regen Ag 101 course to people all over the world.
I just wanted to add a little to that, what Gabe was saying. Years ago, I'll be honest, I didn't have much hope. I didn't have much hope for agriculture. Now I have hope, because when you have the right thought process, when you have the right goal, and this is what the thing you're going to learn in this course, it changes everything. The word regenerative is renewal. There's a renewal. And I'm going to tell you, it starts, and Gabe and I use this all the time, unless the heart and mind is changed, you can't change the operation. There's a renewal of thinking. And I tell you, when you have that renewal, it's absolutely beautiful. You change the way you look at the animals, the way you look at the landscape. It changes your life. Gabe and I have had many, many experiences where you can see the quality of life improve. And I think that Gabe and I get very emotional when we see when there's healing on the farm, from economic healing, ecological healing, and spiritual healing. Gabe and I added a principle on the course, in the soil health course, that farming and ranching is also a very spiritual thing, understanding the context, the social context, the cultural context, the spiritual context of the human being interfacing with that farm and ranch. So this is exciting. And so I think this course will set the framework. Again, I always use that word framework, because once you have that, it changes people's lives, right, Gabe?
That's correct, Ray. It's a rebirth, a renewal of one's ability to bring family, society, community together to move forward together.
I have a quick question. Kylie, can I jump a question in?
Sure.
In terms of who this course, Regen Ag 101, obviously farmers and ranchers is who we're really wanting to take the course to move them forward. But can you talk about who else can significantly benefit from this course, whether it's someone who's advocating in policy or someone who's a crop advisor who's kind of stuck in the chemical as the solution? Who else is this course really, really useful for? Even people who are working inside a government who might make decisions. Can you talk about like the framing of who's the target, and then who are people who definitely would find use in taking this course?
Thank you for asking that question, Finian, because so often we work with farmers and ranchers and gardeners and horticulturists, but it's also about consumers, educating consumers, because it's very important for them to know where their food comes from and how they with their buying dollar can not only have a great influence on their own health and the health of their family, but also on the environment. Because if they support farmers and ranchers who are using these regenerative practices, it's good for all society. But also what we're finding is that it is good for, government agencies. It's good for organizations. We've been contacted by a myriad of both governmental agencies, organizations, businesses. As many are aware, Understanding Ag, we're working closely on several large projects with General Mills and other multinational corporations. They're interested in regenerative agriculture. Those businesses who are looking for a way to minimize their carbon footprint, it's important that they know that regenerative agriculture plays an important role in that. Communities are interested in regenerative agriculture, as I said earlier, because of the need for clean water. And so we have municipalities who want to take this course in order that they can learn, hey, what can we do in our watershed to clean up our watershed? So there really, if you look at it, this is a course designed for everyone. I don't care where you live on this planet. I don't care what line of work you're in. This course needs to be watched and viewed by all, just like the movie Kiss the Ground needs to be viewed by all.
Just to add what Gabe was saying, everyone, man, we've had tribal members. We've had people come to the Soil Health Academy, and I was just blown away. We had this young person, doesn't farm, doesn't ranch, doesn't do any of that. And I asked him, well, why did you come to the class? He goes, I just want to be able to share this message of healing of the soil and the planet. It was so exciting. We've had several people come to our school just so they can be informed. Gabe's right. This should be taught in our grade schools, our high schools, our universities. My goodness, if I would have known some of the principles, I would have been a better Peace Corps volunteer. I would have been a better farmer. I would have been a better government employee. So Gabe is right. Everyone should see it. Take this course.
Maybe this is a good segue into speaking a little bit about the curriculum and how people can enroll and when they can enroll.
Sure. So the curriculum is a 9-course module. First, we have an introduction as to why regenerative agriculture. Why is there the need at this point in time in society for regenerative agriculture? And that foundation was laid out very well in the Kiss the Ground movie. And then we go into, Ray does a series of soil health demonstrations and the ramifications on soil health. And all life begins with the soil, and our health is tied to the health of the soil. And it's important to every person's life, whether they realize it or not. And from there, the course goes on to talk about the 6 principles of a healthy ecosystem. We delve into soil biology and how important the biology is. We go into resource concerns and nutrient management, and we touch a bit on human health. We go into the importance of animals and insects in the ecosystem and how they're there for our benefit and they can be used to enhance the ecosystem. And then we tie it up with a number of case studies, in other words, success stories of those that have gone down the regenerative path, just to show the difference this has made in people's lives. Now, besides that, with the course, is we have a tremendous amount of augmented material tied to it that attendees will be able to learn on their own. We will have the links, a wealth of information that they can go to and have access to and learn on their own. And this course will be available once the course is purchased by an attendee. They'll be able to go back for a full year, learn at their own pace, view any additional materials that are added over time. So we feel it's a ongoing educational process. Pre-sign up for the course, I believe, will begin next week, right? On the 6th of November, I believe. Right now, you can sign up for to get on the list, and then we will contact those on the list. They will have be able to contact Kiss the Ground and sign up there. Do you want to add anything to that, Finian?
Yeah, I just posted the link for the wait list, and yeah, next week enrollment officially opens. But if you start on the wait list, which I just posted there, you'll get notified immediately when the enrollment starts next week. So excited.
If you registered for this webinar, we'll be sending a follow-up email with enrollment as well.
Great. Ray, did you have anything to add about the course?
Yes.
I went through that rather quickly.
Yeah, just quickly too, is that what Gabe was talking about, there'll be research papers attached to a lot as you go through the journey of the course, so people can read and do it at their own pace. That's the beauty. So there's going to be a lot of resources attached to a lot of these modules. So that realized that Gabe and I didn't make up this information, but it was good research from ecologists and people, soil scientists. It's going to be it's a great little course, and I hope it'll also prep people to go deeper into our hands-on schools and because it'll get you started and you're going to want more and more. Keep in mind what Gabe said. This is a journey of learning, and also you'll be part of a community. If you take this course, you'll be part of a community of soil health advocates. So just wanted to add that.
We just had a question pop in here maybe this is a really quick answer, is there a certification or not necessarily official certification? What do people get for fully completing the course? Ray or Gabe?
What do they get is there is no certification per se, but the most important thing you get is education and the belonging to that community, and then also access to that community. One of the beautiful things about regenerative agriculture is everyone's willingness to share. I remember when I started down this path 25 plus years ago, boy, talk about out on an island, there was very, very few people moving down this path. Now today, I can pick up the phone and either call or email people anywhere in the world, and they're open and willing to share. And what that does, that helps everyone, because the more we can collaborate and communicate, the better it is for all, and it'll help propel all society forward. So we thought about a certification, but then we decided that the best certification is the community itself.
Well, Ray and Gabe, if you guys are finished talking about the course, we can dive into the Q&A because we have a lot of questions here for you guys.
Be happy to.
I think the most ubiquitous, or the question we get the most, is how can you implement the practices of regenerative agriculture on a small scale, from a garden to a large scale, like a 5,000 acre ranch?
Oh, I love that question because, those who come to my ranch, and we get more than a few people coming every year to tour the ranch, they're sometimes surprised that the first place I take them is to our garden, because our garden it's been no-till for over 25 years. And everything we do on a large scale on our ranch can be done in a garden. And I tell people these practices can be done in a flower pot on a deck in the inner city. And the principles are the same anywhere. The tools used are a little different, but you can still practice no-till. Armor on the soil surface. You still need diversity of plant species. You still need a living root in that soil as long as possible, whether it's a flower pot a garden or a 5,000 acre ranch. You still need that insect animal integration. Now, obviously, in a flower pot, you're not going to have animals, but you can certainly have insects. You need those pollinator insects and predator insects there to ward off the pests. And that's the beauty of it. You know, I tell people that I'm not 99.9% sure that these principles will work anywhere in the world. I'm 100% sure, because they're simply the principles of nature. And Ray and I have both traveled extensively, you know, around the world. We haven't found anywhere where these principles won't work. And there's people practicing regenerative agriculture on every continent where we're able to perform production agriculture.
So in that same vein, where would you have people start? Is it cover cropping? Is it mulching? The animal integration?
Ray, do you want to take that one?
You know, just be brutally honest. The first place is your mind. Until your heart and mind changes on how you look at the ecosystem, the principles Gabe are talking about, they're ecological principles. You have to have a basic understanding how the planet works, how the ecosystem processes work. These principles are critical first. The first thing we always want to do is we want to start pulling out tools. We want to go do this. We want to use a cow. We want to use a plant. We want to do all these other things, but we don't even have the right goal. We don't even have the right framework. That's not the beginning. The beginning is you got to understand what you're dealing with, this elegant system, and understand its rules. That's the first. Once you understand, then you can go logistically use, well, do I need to use the mulch? Do I need to use that plant? It's learning how to be a master artisan. This is an incredibly elegant system. First, have the right framework. That's what this course starts to do. Then you start learning how to use the tools. That's first.
Mm-hmm. Ray's absolutely right. It's all about education. Henry Ford said it best when he said, whether you think you can or you think you cannot, you are correct. And you have to understand the principles and understand, you know, one of the most intelligent things I ever heard Ray Archuleta say is when he coined that phrase, plant and soil are one. And they truly are. You cannot have healthy soil without living plants. And it's an ecosystem. And we have to start thinking, whether it's a flower pot on a deck, whether it's a garden, or whether it's a large scale operation, they're all ecosystems in and of themselves. And we need to pay attention to that.
Just want to make one more point. You know, Gabe and I have been doing this for a long time. And when people go down this regenerative path, you know where I see the number one failure? They never really understood. They were never really committed. They didn't even understand the basic principles. And so if you don't have that understanding, that desire, you're just going to fail. So, you know, we keep talking about these principles, but people and sometimes you almost get people, some of the landowners have been around this, roll their eyes, but they still don't get it. It's learning how to apply the principles logistically. And that's what we teach you. And until you get that right, we can't move you to the next step.
And if I may, that gets back to Finian's comment also about others and organizations and policymakers. You know, Ray and I and our team get contacted all the time. As some may know, there isn't an election going on shortly in the United States. And we've been contacted by both sides of the aisle. They're policymakers trying to learn about regenerative agriculture. I mentioned it just before I got started here. I was just contacted by the Prince of Wales. Will I be willing to visit with him about this regenerative agriculture? And the fact of the matter is, it's because they know they need to be educated first. We can determine all the policy, you know, the lawmakers can pass all these rules, regulations, and policies. But if the education is not there as to why we need to do these things, they're all going to fail.
That's a good segue into how can farmers, you know, what steps can they take to do regenerative agriculture with the lack of government support? Finn, you might want to speak to the new policy, soil policy map that we have up.
Yeah, I think that's a great, I think you said it. That's plenty. It's just like what in the interim, we're obviously everyone, I just wanted to add that what Gabe and Ray are saying is taking this course as an advocate is crucial, because we not only want to tell other people about it inside of policy, but we want to be able to move the collective needle over to thinking and approaching things this way, so that 2 or 3 or 5 years from now, we have collective will to actually move the entire country or nations around the world. But I guess the question comes, in the interim, Gabe and Ray, what are people able to do? Because that doesn't necessarily exist right now. It's building.
That's exactly right, Finian. What we need to do is to educate all, as I said earlier, so that consumers demand the change. They demand that the food that is grown and raised be done in a regenerative way. Once they demand it, policymakers, they will come along and say, boy, my constituents are demanding this. We need to change policy. We need to enact policy that enables farmers and ranchers and society to move down the regenerative path.
Getting a little bit more specific here, how would you get rid of old grass regeneratively? What are the do's and the don'ts in terms of reseeding and tillage?
Yeah, and that all goes back to context. What is that individual's context? Obviously, I'm not going to be able to find out enough right now about that person's individual context. But normally what we do, and we consult on a lot of farms and ranches all over North America and expanding globally. And if that individual's context is they want it, for instance, for grazing, we're going to regenerate it with livestock. We will not be killing those plants and then coming back and reseeding something. That latent seed bank is there. You know, our good friend and one of our consultants, Alejandro Carrillo, who ranches in the Chihuahua Desert, is a fantastic case study for the ability to take desertified areas and just through stewardship or management, we prefer to call it stewardship, has regenerated. He's regreened that desert just using animal impact and the latent seed bank. So that's where we would start in most situations.
Can you talk on that really quick? I don't know what the numbers are exactly, but that always astonished me, of something like 200 head of cattle per 200 acres to feed one head of cattle moved down to like 75 acres to feed one head of cattle, or something that he's done there. Increase in terms of increased biomass production of his land.
Yeah, Alejandro has taken an area that was 1 cow per 300 acres and has brought it down to approximately 1 cow per 30 to 40 acres.
Oh my gosh! So I wasn't even as grand as it is. It's amazing.
It is absolutely amazing, and a testament to this, Alejandro did a webinar for our Understanding Ag Network, and I just couldn't believe what he said, but I just smiled. He was talking, he's in an area that gets 6 to 8 inches of rainfall annually. And his comment was, yeah, we get 6 to 8 inches, but I really don't need that much. And I thought, wow, if that doesn't show you the power of healing a water cycle, nothing will. So it puts it in context. People like Ray in Missouri, who gets, it seems, 40 inches of rainfall a year, should never be talking about a drought, right?
Kylie,
yeah.
Kylie, you were mentioning that this gentleman wanted to know how to terminate an old grass with, he says he normally plows. Is that what you were asking that question too? Is that the question you were asking?
Yeah, I think.
How to terminate it?
Yeah, he normally plows and plows and reseeds.
Right. I just want to make a quick point here. I think, you know, plowing is a tool. We know that. It's a very intrusive tool. Herbicides is a tool. in some people's mind is a very intrusive tool. A lot of our tools are to terminate. The word side, really tillage should be called tillicide because it's to kill, and you have to terminate. And what we're teaching our school is to be careful and do less chronic tillage or chronic spraying. So part of the regenerative journey is that what's going on the land is we have chronic tillage going on. Chronic means always tilling, always disking, always spraying, always putting too much fertilizer. What we teach is learning how to use the tools correctly so that you use them occasionally. And so it depends on the context. And Gabe was very correct. For me to give him an answer about how to kill that, we don't know if he's on 15 or 20% slopes, you know, and then I say, well, go ahead and till it. And then he gets one rain event and he has massive erosion versus when somebody uses a herbicide and it leaves that dead mat and it rains, you lose years of fertility. So to answer that question would be really difficult. We don't have enough context. But my whole point is no matter what he uses, if he tills that piece of ground, the next thing he wants to do is use a cover crop to start the healing process. So learning how to use the tools correctly, that's what we teach in this school.
Yeah, and you mentioned using herbicides and tillage. So can you speak to conventional practices and their place in the regenerative context?
Thank you. The whole concept is what we're teaching is called agroecology. Insert more ecology into the system. It's all about approach. What I was taught in college was these two approaches, physical and chemical. First thing I always brought out of the toolbox, something tillage or something to spray. Wrong approach. What we teach at the school is bring an ecological approach. First, I got to bring a cow or an animal or a plant. Can I use those two tools that the natural system prefers if I want something done on the land? Do I have to, so if I'm going to have to terminate a crop or do this, can I do it with a cow? Can I do it with an animal? Can I do it with a plant? Can I smother it? Can I roll it down? It really is depending on the context, but the whole concept is ecological approach first. And what we teach is the tools. Sometimes we have, and I've done it, sometimes we tend to demonize the tool. The problem is the understanding how to use the tool correctly. That's the proper approach. So we gradually work our students and the people we consult to gradually use the tools less through time. So they don't have to use those tools anymore. So that's a journey and it takes a while.
Yeah. So
just on that note, can I just ask one question in particular? A lot of people make an assumption if we're converting to regenerative ag, for example, that they won't be able to use their nitrogen fertilizer anymore or some of these tools that they have. Can you guys talk a little bit for a second just about how important it is for people to understand that our soil is sick and broken? So weaning off of these really addictions that we have is a process. You know, we all love Christine Jones, Dr. Christine Jones on this stuff, but like, can you talk about that weaning off for a second of how important it is not to just think that you're magically going to stop everything because the sick system?
Right.
Yeah, look, I'm going to make it a very simple way. My father-in-law died at 61 years old. He was a chronic smoker and he was a functional alcoholic. He stopped everything right away, Finian, killed him. Also, the soil's the same way. It's not functioning. The reason some of these producers still get production is because of those fertilizers and those chemicals. The system's not healthy. The self-healing, self-organizing, self-regulating system of the natural system is not intact. People need to understand it's the insects, the diversity of the animals and everything together that brings that self-healing, self-organizing, self-regulating. So it takes time to bring that back. So you just can't get people and wean them off chemical fertilizer and pesticides and all that. It's a gradual. We don't want our farmers going broke. So we use key indicators, and we teach that in school, and at the school in the course. And we also have new tools now, like the Rick Haney test, so that we can see the total amount of nitrogen. For many, many years, we've been missing over 50% of the nitrogen. We have a test now that uses biomimicry concepts and principles and uses green chemistry. We can gradually work the farmer away from those nutrients once we start going down that journey. Don't you agree, Gabe?
That's exactly right, Ray. Thanks for the question, Finian, because it's a question we often hear. And one of the things we pride ourselves in that will become apparent in this course, in the Regen Ag 101 course, is that this is done according to the comfort level of the individual. You know, we all have an aversion to risk. Some individuals are more risk tolerant than others. So we explain the process. And we lay out the education so that when they feel comfortable and what they're able to observe on their farm or ranch, as Ray said, what those key tests are indicating to them, then we start weaning them back. And it's often, you know, there's this kind of misnomer out there that, oh, you're going to lose money for a while going down this regenerative path. That's absolutely not true. We see the individuals adopting these regenerative practices, they're able to increase profitability the very first year. And the reason is they're doing it in this methodical manner, according to what these indicators are telling them, according to their risk aversion and what they feel comfortable with. So that's what the course will lay out for people is, how do we do this in a way that's easy on our pocketbook, yet we are advancing the ecosystem health for our betterment and the betterment of society.
Just to add one more point, there are indicators of health. When you go to the doctor, he does a blood sample on you, urine, fecal, all this, you're complex. As Gabe laid out, in our school, in our class, there are many indicators because the soil is a complex ecosystem and it tells you, and we teach you how to look at those indicators so that you understand its function. So we lay that out in that course.
Is the course going to be translated into other languages? And how can people contact you guys directly for public speaking engagements or to consult on their land?
Thank you for that question. Yes, we will be rolling out a Spanish version very shortly after the English version comes out. And then we will also be exploring other languages as well, depending on the acceptance of those. So to learn more about Soil Health Academy, all you need to do is Google Soil Health Academy, and there will be a link there to our website, contact information on that.
Great, thanks. And then Ray, you can probably speak to this since you were in the NRCS, but we get a lot of questions about where people can start, what resources are available to them in their states or countries. Can you speak a little bit about soil and water conservation districts and state departments of food and ag?
We're in this country, we're pretty blessed. We have a USDA department that's been around for quite a while. NRCS has been around since the 1930s, and the conservation districts. And so, like for my local office, you can rent a local no-till drill or a no-till and a planter also. So there's those kind of resources at your local office, and just Google NRCS USDA and it'll tell you what the local resources in your area. So that already exists. That framework already exists, and there's a lot of ways to help young farmers get into farming, and so those programs already exist. You just have to Google NRCS USDA, and it'll get you there. So from that perspective, those resources already exist.
I'll also say too, we just launched our online community where we have a farmland gathering space, and I'll drop that into the chat, and that's where you can connect with other farmers or gardeners or people on this journey and share resources. We post a lot of events that center around regenerative agriculture, as well as webinars, research articles, case studies. So be sure to utilize that resource.
I just want to add another thing too. There are every state now, a lot of states are now starting their own soil health alliance. And the South Dakota Coalition, is that right, Gabe? The name, the coalition, they have some incredible, awesome stuff on their website and how they, so there's a lot of resources there too. So just type the word of your state and maybe there might be an alliance where farmers get together and they're helping each other. So that's another resource.
I have a quick question, Kylie, if I can jump in, is I know there are plenty of people on this call who aren't necessarily farmers, but really want to help bring farmers to this. You know, they've had the awakening moment themselves. Their family might be in farming. What do you guys recommend, aside from the great promo videos, which we'll be blasting across the internet next week, for the Regen 101 course? What are ways that have worked or have you heard work to get, whether it's someone's dad or mom, into the course, or whether, oh, my uncle is a farmer? What are the successful ways that people have gotten someone to bite and not just throw it off as, oh, well, that doesn't work for me? So that we have people on the channel here. I see some of them I know, soil advocates who've taken that course. Like, how do they get people engaged to actually take this? This is obviously a scaled model where they can do it online, so it's a little easier than going to an in-person course anyway, but give us some of the tips of getting people in.
Yeah. And so one of the ways we're often seeing is, you know, most families, unfortunately, either in their immediate family or extended family, have someone that has had a human health crisis. And so often nutrient dense food is a common theme in getting people interested in moving down this path. It amazes us, even as farmers and ranchers, when our team goes out speaking, how many farmers and ranchers themselves are moved when we talk about the increased nutrient density in foods that are grown and raised regeneratively. And so what often when I'm having conversation at church or in areas that I'm not talking to other farmers and ranchers, it's going to be food is going to be the common denominator. And we come at it from that standpoint. Well, there's a human health concern. Well, do you know what you eat directly obviously affects your health, but it also is important for your immune system. Look at what's going on in society right now with this COVID pandemic. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people succumbing to it, but its compromised immune systems is the underlying factor there. They do not have a healthy immune system, and that goes back often directly related to what they're consuming. So go at it from that perspective and then say, hey, you might want to learn more about how your food needs to be grown and raised. And here's a great course to start you down that path. And we have people who will be purchasing the course, giving it to other people, you know, as a way to educate more individuals and organizations.
One thing I want to add to that is you got to have a lot of humility. And I'm going to tell you, you got to be very careful how you approach the family. You can actually make it worse. Gabe and I have this saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. I've learned through time, you have to be very careful how you approach your family. And sometimes it's really difficult to take it from a younger family member. And sometimes it's just best, you know, to kind of sneak in a little video there or whatever. And when people are searching, you'll be surprised how it comes. And sometimes it's hard to come from the family member. I'm just going to be brutally honest. But just be patient. And don't be like myself, like I did in the past. I try to push it too hard. And sometimes it just gets people more upset. So humility and just be patient about it to help. You know, this will help people they'll get there eventually. Just be patient.
And the screen works too. I had a moment of my one of my in-laws was debating me about composting, thinking we were somehow equal in terms of knowledge about compost. And then I just turned on the compost story and it was like, the TV is telling you now. So yay. So Kiss the Ground, the movie, another way to like get it legitimized. So you don't argue peer to peer, quote unquote.
And do you have any last questions for Gabe and Ray?
Yeah, I have a couple. Can we go over some just logistics of like what is the course costing people? Really quick question for a bunch of people who are asking that.
Sure. So the course is $499, and that allows you 1 year access to all the materials in the course and all the ancillary material, the augmented material, which there is a lot. I was just going through the Q&As that are listed here, and a lot of people are asking, how does this compare to permaculture? How many animals do I need? Can I do it on a small scale? And do you have the case studies and the hard numbers? All that information will be available through this course and through the augmented material. So it's a wealth of information. It's professionally done at a pace, so you're able to view it and learn at a pace that's comfortable to you.
Yeah, and I have another a question here. Can you guys talk a little bit about, because Ray Mange mentioned agroecology and permaculture has been brought up a bunch. Can you guys talk about the context? For me, this is where it comes back to. It's not necessarily all different, but the context of regenerative agriculture, why it's being pushed so hard from your mind as a different wording than agroecology per se, or even permaculture. Can you just give some distinctions there for people?
Sure, Ray.
Also, I'm a big advocate of both. I have agroecology textbooks all the time on my shelves. I read the permaculture book. What this regenerative agriculture does is, how do you transition from a conventional industrial model? And that's what regenerative agriculture does. This is what we teach, because how do you take a very destroyed system and transition them in a 1 acre to 1,000 or 2,000 acres? A lot of similar concepts, but what we bring to the table is the logistical experience, how to go from here to this system. Because personally, I want permaculture on my ranch, but what I'm teaching is actually applied agroecology principles. It's about that journey and learning how to understand how to get to these areas like permaculture and those. So we teach that, and we have that experience.
And I will just add to that, one of the things we focus on in this course is the power of observation. You know, so often today, it doesn't matter if you're a gardener or if you're a farmer or a rancher, have a large orchard, doesn't matter. We look to agronomists and others, extension agents, others, to give us a recipe card, so to speak. This is about using your powers of observation to look at your own land, whether it be a garden or a ranch or a farm, and determine, what is that telling me? What is nature telling me? I do a piece in the course where I talk about what many people consider weeds are really forbs that are trying to tell us something. Nature is putting those forbs there for a reason, because it needs to cycle in a certain nutrient. It needs to alleviate a compaction layer, for instance. So nature is trying to tell us something. Are we smart enough to observe that and then move our management accordingly to allow nature to heal itself?
If Kylie, go ahead. Go ahead. I have another couple questions, but oh, you're muted, Kylie. Sorry.
I was just going to say, there's a few questions about when people purchase the course, is there a money back guarantee? Will they be able to interact with all the facilitators in the course? And will the videos be all pre-recorded, or is there some interactive live component?
Yes, and this is a pre-recorded course. Now, we are setting up where we will be able to take some questions, but realize that this course is going to be selling many thousands. And for that reason, obviously, time is a constraint. So will we be able to answer everyone's questions specifically, individually? Unfortunately, no. But the good thing about this is with that augmented material in that, it's there. And with the community dynamic that it brings, there will be many people who in your areas and that who will be able to help you with any individual issues or problems, questions that might arise.
Is there an online group where all the members from the course can have discussion?
We are working on that at this time. We haven't determined what type of social media we'll use, but we are working on that and working towards that. What we have found that works really well is that we're getting groups in areas with the same ecological context so that they can relate. That way, the user doesn't have to sift through so much information. And we're forming those alliances. We've started a wide range of groups here in the United States and in Canada and Mexico, and that's working really well. We see this, foresee the same thing happening with this course.
And since costs can be somewhat of a barrier, do you guys have scholarships available or payment plans?
Yeah, right now we purposely kept the cost of the course what we think is very economical at $499. And so to have scholarships available, the problem there, we know if we would start offering some scholarships, we would actually have thousands and thousands of applicants. And then it becomes a matter, how do you sift through that many and how do you determine? So we're encouraging individuals and organizations to, if they want to provide scholarships for those in their groups or provide scholarships for another individual, that's how we prefer to go about that.
Which our program does, Kylie, right? We're going to be doing that on our own
That's
side.
great.
I have one last follow-up question. This is kind of like a big question. Oftentimes we run into, especially on the policy front, with people getting this and getting the big farming perspective. It's not just a numbers of like, well, how much more water savings or how much carbon can you sequester, but really talking about regeneration of function, ecosystem carrying capacity is sometimes overlooked at this, and what that amounts to in resilience. You know, when Gabe and Ray both talk about resilience of your human body, like our system is broken and degraded. Like, can you guys talk about just a bit to wrap this up of like what this means, the opportunity for increased land function, increased land resilience compared to what a majority of our farmland is in crisis right now? Just that regeneration in a nutshell, what it means in agriculture.
Go ahead, Ray. You take a swing at that one. That's a great question.
One thing, Finian, that I get a little frustrated because we focus so much on carbon. That's a very singular view of the problem that we have. It's multidimensional. We're losing insects at a huge rate. It's in the cooling of the planet. We have way too much bare ground. If you look at most of Northern Africa, most of our precious country in the United States is not covered. There's sensible heat being reflected. It's not just about carbon and about infiltration problems. It's multidimensional. And so that's why I get kind of frustrated, because what we need is more living plants to start those ecosystem processes. We start the cooling. We start bringing insect habitat, bringing more biodiversity. I think we missed the mark because we focus so much about carbon, and then we get lost. And the reality is we just need to cover the living soil. If we can just get people to cover it, can you imagine all of Mexico covered with beautiful grasses and the animals are roaming and mimicking buffalo like Alejandro's doing? We can bring restoration. It's not singular, it's multidimensional. And I think we get too focused on one thing. I don't know what you think about Gabe and that.
Yeah, that's great, Ray. And I'll just add to that. I couldn't agree more, Finian, with you that it is so much more than just a singular thing. You know, we can address farm and ranch profitability. We can addressed family issues, societal issues, community issues with this. But it's many things that we often don't take into consideration. Like I'm thinking of, look at the devastating fires out on the West Coast of the United States. And that's because of a degraded ecosystem. It was because of mismanagement that we did not allow grazing animals to take care of that understory, and we had such a fire load built up. And then you look at the water issues we're having in many areas around the world. And I'll just use my own ranch as an example. I took soils that could only infiltrate half of an inch per hour, and now we've scientifically measured that we're able to infiltrate over 30 inches of rainfall per hour.
And then still drive a truck over it, right?
Yeah, and still drive a truck over it. And then we often get people say, yeah, but regenerative agriculture can't feed the world. Well, gee, let me just take, my neighbors can run one cow-calf pair on 10 acres of land. Well, I can run 3 times as many cow-calf pairs. I can grass finish beef. I'll have sheep on there. I'll have pastured hogs. I'll be able to produce honey on those acres. I've got all these stacked enterprises. And then let's start talking about the wildlife. We just did a bird count on our ranch, and we have threatened species of birds nesting on our ranch during the summer months in the Northern Hemisphere. And isn't it amazing? They've documented those same bird species, which aren't supposed to be here in central North Dakota. They've documented them on Alejandro's ranch in Mexico during the winter months. So isn't it amazing that as you heal the ecosystem, you have all these other benefits that come about, including birds and wildlife and insects. And Dr. Jonathan Lundgren, world famous entomologist, is on our team, and we're involved with him in one of the largest insect studies ever to have taken place in the world. And we're documenting these insect populations. And what we're seeing is that people say, well, what if I do it, but all my neighbors around me don't? It still is having a major benefit. You're getting all of this biodiversity of insect species, plant species coming. We're seeing plant species show up in our adaptive grazing areas that haven't been seen in 50 to 100 years. Well, that seed was laying dormant in that latent seed bank, waiting for the proper stewardship. So that's what this is all about. There's so many things. So wherever your interest lies, regenerative agriculture can help address those interests.
Thank you, guys. We're about at time here. For all of our attendees, this will be recorded, and look out for an email with the link to enroll in this course. It should be available next week.
Hey, Kylie, can I share one picture so that to show how powerful regenerative agriculture is?
Of course.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see that. If you let me share, can you let me share the screen? Oh, you just enabled it. It's okay. What I wanted to show you recently, a friend of mine, Keith Dennis, I'll leave you with this. He has written, his wife just passed away with cancer, and he redid the tombstone, and he wrote on the bottom, he asked his wife before she passed away, I would like to do one thing if it's okay with your permission. She said, sure. She says, and both their tombstones reads, regenerative farmers using cover crops to build healthy soils. Isn't that amazing? Wow. It changed their lives that much. And that's what they had written. And that's what I wanted to show you, if I could be able to share the screen.
I just allowed all panelists.
Oh, okay. Because I tell you, it was, yeah, let me show you it. It's just, he said that to me and I was so excited about that. Look at that. Regenerative farmers using cover crops to build healthy soils. His wife just passed away, and he said, this is what I want mine. And he's down the regenerative path. Keith Dennis changed his whole life. And this is what we're talking about. He has a whole renewal of life, and he wants to leave this benchmark of hope. On his tombstone, it says regenerative farmers using cover crops to build healthy soils. This is what
So
this
that
is about.
shows you the power of one individual, because how many people are going to walk by that and read that, and we don't know how many lives that'll change. That's fantastic.
I just want to thank you both. Your incredible inspirations, and the thing that inspires me the most is that you are constantly learning and providing access to that learning to so many people, and it's so honorable and an incredible gift to so many of us. So thank you for taking us in your journey and allowing us access to it.
Well, it's a real pleasure to work with Kiss the Ground. It's very enjoyable for us, and we're all on a mission together, because this doesn't happen alone, it happens together.
And thank you for the people that listened today.
Yeah.
For what you guys do. I know that we couldn't do this without this community of love going out there, and you guys want to bring healing. It took an hour of your time to be here today, and I really appreciate that, of your life.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next time.
Thank you.